The courtroom was coasting on midday fatigue, reporters half-packed, lawyers scrolling phones, when a bailiff in creased blues cut through the aisle like a rip in fabric and set a white envelope onto the judge's bench with the hush of a guillotine blade. Conversation stalled mid-sentence. Even the ceiling fans seemed to pause. 3 block letters stared back from the tab, JLL, and for a full 5 seconds, no one breathed, because everyone in that room knew those initials were heavier than evidence. They were celebrity. The judge, usually granite-faced, flicked a glance at counsel, slit the seal, and unfolded 6 pages that rattled louder than any gavel. From the gallery came a single muffled gasp, phones raised in unison like a mechanical forest, only to be slapped down by marshals who suddenly remembered their jobs. As eyes darted for an explanation, the court clerk whispered something that travelled row by row, a telephone game of panic. "It's Lopez, Jennifer Lopez." The plaintiff's team froze. Defense counsel leaned in, and a junior associate actually dropped her legal pad. The judge skimmed, eyebrows climbing a rung with every line, then signalled for an immediate sidebar, unprecedented mid-recess, while ordering the gallery to remain seated. The doors locked with a hollow click. Somewhere, a reporter cursed into a muted mic. Everywhere, speculation bloomed like smoke. What was J-Lo doing inside the Cassie-v-Combs firestorm? And why had her affidavit arrived without warning? No legal entourage, no PR shield. One envelope had just reset the entire trial's temperature to inferno. 17 summers earlier, at the exact zenith of her pop culture orbit, Jennifer Lopez walked off a Malibu soundstage smelling of movie set fog and freshly bottled perfume, and felt an unexpected hollowness yawning beneath the spotlight. Her career ticker read platinum albums, global tours, a booming fragrance line, but the metrics that once felt electric now sounded tinny, like coins in a plastic jar. She craved something small enough to touch, honest enough to sweat on. So she signed a short-term lease on a bare-bones studio in East LA and christened it The Movement, a 6-week dance intensive for 25 underrepresented girls who arrived with calloused feet and loner leotards, not agents or hype. She paid for everything in cash, routed through a discreet LLC to keep corporate oxygen out. No brand logos were allowed past the door, and no men were either. Phones surrendered to cubbies, mirrors taped over to kill vanity, speakers blasted throwback salsa 1 minute, raw house the next. 3 days a week, J-Lo slipped in alone, no glam squad, no security shadow, wearing paint-splattered sweats and a ponytail that snapped rhythm like a metronome. She drilled fundamentals until the floorboards steamed, then circled the room, asking each girl what dancing felt like in a single word. Answers ranged from escape to electricity, and she stitched those words onto cheap cotton towels they used to mop sweat. By the second week, the sanctuary pulsed with unfiltered joy, the kind studios lose once cameras crowd in, and Lopez exhaled for the first time in years, believing she'd built a space nobody could corrupt. Barely 3 weeks into the camp's rhythm, sweaty floors still humming from yesterday's foot stomps, a square FedEx box landed on J-Lo's doorstep like a wolf in silk. Inside, thick cream cardstock embossed with Combs Enterprises and a pitch so glossy it practically reflected her face. The letter oozed compliments, revolutionary mentorship, culture-shifting vision, before unveiling its real lure, full funding, custom Sean John wardrobes, splashy spreads in vibe and essence. But one sentence snagged her eye the way a splinter snags skin. Observational access to all intensives for talent development purposes. Observational, not participatory. Watching, not helping. She flipped to the fine print. No parental consent required for visits, no disclosure clause to participants, right of entry for mentorship liaisons, at sponsors' discretion. Translation: an open door for anyone Diddy's empire deemed useful. J-Lo felt her pulse drum in her wrists. She pictured the girls, knees scuffed, dreams raw, dancing under a two-way mirror they'd never notice. No amount of cash could perfume that stench. She marched the proposal straight to her kitchen island, drafted a one-word reply in Sharpie, "No," photographed it, and texted the image to her creative director with the caption, "Non-negotiable." Hours later, her phone pinged with a slick follow-up. Big money. Big press. Think legacy. She didn't bother to respond. By sundown, a black Escalade idled across the street from her studio. windows tinted darker than intent, and Lopez felt the first hairline fracture in her sanctuary's walls. Saying no, she realised, was only the opening act. The next morning smelled wrong before sunrise, Los Angeles air thick with car exhaust sweetness and something sourer like expectation. A matte black SUV idled across the street from the studio exactly 15 minutes before class, engine whispering while the driver stared into a phone that never left his lap. 2 sessions later, the same vehicle returned, same time, same plate, its windows reflecting the girls' silhouettes as they stretched at the bar. On day 3, a woman breezed in carrying garment bags and bubble-wrap smiles, insisting a mutual friend had commissioned free showcase costumes. When told no showcase existed, she cocked her head, said, "Oh, he thought that might change," and left a lavender business card that dissolved to blank when rubbed. Word spread. The girls started spotting strangers in mirrored sunglasses loitering at the juice bar next door, pretending to scroll but angling cameras just so. Then the casting grids appeared. A 17-year-old from Phoenix who'd never auditioned outside these walls found her name slotted for a national shoe campaign and texted Lopez in confusion. Another dancer was flagged for a music video call sheet she'd never heard of. J-Lo cross-checked dates. Every phantom booking matched a day the SUV had been parked outside. Security footage showed no lenses inside the studio, yet their movements were already currency. The realization landed with the force of a kick drum. She hadn't rejected the pipeline, she'd simply forced it to burrow deeper. Watching didn't require cameras, only proximity, and she was the doorway they meant to pry off its hinges. The polished offer arrived during a thunderless dawn, delivered by a uniformed courier who bowed as if presenting a crown, thick linen envelope, gold foil crest, Combs Enterprises philanthropic division, and the salutation so formal it might have addressed royalty. Dear Ms. Lopez and leadership team. Cute fiction. There was no team, only 25 girls and a woman who now measured trust like glass. Page 1 sang rhapsodies about revolutionary mentorship, expanded visibility, legacy impact. Page 2 promised full funding, Sean John wardrobes, red carpet slots in vibe and essence. Page 3 hid its fangs midway down a dense paragraph. This platform may surface early-stage talent suitable for long-term mentorship relationships within the Combs network. Lopez underlined the sentence once, twice, a third time until the pen bled through. She marched the packet to her lawyer's office. He read in silence, then circled 3 clauses she'd missed. No requirement for parental or agent representation to accept opportunities. Observational presence need not be disclosed to participants. Combs-affiliated personnel may attend workshops at the sponsor's sole discretion. The paper looked less like a sponsorship than a customs manifest. Girls as inventory, trust as duty-free cargo. Lopez snapped a photo of the clauses, texted it to her creative director with a single caption, "Pipeline." Then she drafted a reply on her lawyer's letterhead. 2 words, 12-point bold. Offer declined. The courier was still waiting downstairs. She handed him the refusal and shut the glass door hard enough to rattle diplomas on the wall. Minutes later, her phone blinked with an unknown number. "We thought you were about legacy." She stared at the message without replying, feeling the studio's walls tilt, proof that predators read "no" as an invitation to escalate. Threats arrived not as shouts but as whispers typed in courier, the font of screenplays and ransom notes. First came the slip beneath her front door mat. One line, center justified. "Every door you lock means someone else opens it first. No signature, just the faint smell of copier toner." That same night, a text from an unlisted number pinged at 2:14 a.m. Legacy doesn't wait forever. Lopez screenshot it, muted the thread, and tried to sleep. The next sunrise, she found a matching envelope tucked under her car's wiper blade. Inside, a single sheet listed the camp's roster of first names, each bracketed by a red stamped status. In progress, ready, muted. Someone was tracking the girl's emotional temperature like meat on a grill. While she studied the list, her phone rang, an old industry floater who never belongs to anyone but ends up everywhere. He skipped pleasantries. Forget the letter. Optics. The camp doesn't need funding, it needs access. Let him watch. A chill spread from her collarbones down. She asked who. He chuckled, low and knowing. You already know. Then the line that turned her blood carbon cold. He likes watching before they know what they are. Age, he explained, was irrelevant. Silence was the commodity. The best ones don't ask questions, they just want to be seen. She hung up without a word, but clarity thrummed louder than fear. This was no longer negotiation, it was conditioning. Each note, each anonymous ping, each idle SUV was teaching her a lesson whispered across industry backchannels. Lock one entrance and they'll tunnel 3 more. The walls of the movement weren't just breached, they were being mapped in real time. By noon that same day, Lopez knew every hour she kept the studio open felt like laying bricks in someone else's tunnel, so she pulled the plug with surgical speed. She gathered the instructors in the office that still smelled of dollar store disinfectant and said simply, "We're done." No farewell show, no photo ops, just cash refunds slid across a folding table and a promise she hated to make. "I can't keep you safe while they're watching us breathe." Word travelled down the hallway faster than music. Girls filed in, sweatbands still damp, confusion flickering in their eyes as she explained the camp would close effective immediately. One asked, "Did we do something wrong?" Lopez swallowed hard and shook her head, knowing the real answer was older than any of them. By 3 p.m, she was scrubbing scuff marks off Marley flooring, silencing the speakers, untaping the mirrors she'd once covered for privacy, now peeling like band-aids from a wound. She hauled the whiteboard with every girl's progress notes into the alley and snapped it in two, felt the crack echo down the block. When she finally rolled the metal shutter over the entrance and slid the padlock home, the street felt louder than ever. Same idling SUV, same driver pretending to scroll, this time capturing the moment the sanctuary died. Lopez drove away without looking back, but Hollywood's retribution beat her home. That evening, a fragrance campaign she'd nurtured for a year evaporated in a single schedule conflict email. By dawn, her talk show slot vanished, and a youth dancewear line pivoted creative direction. The message landed with corporate politeness, yet rang as clear as that windshield list. Lock one door, and the industry will ghost you through every other entrance it controls. Opportunities didn't slam shut, they evaporated. Quiet subtraction masquerading as coincidence. First went the fragrance rollout, a year-long R&D pet project postponed due to market timing, which really meant don't expect it back. Then her confirmed late-night show Sit Down disappeared from the network grid with no reschedule, no apology, just an apologetic junior booker reading a line clearly fed from higher up. Within a month, a youth dancewear collaboration, sketches approved, fabrics sourced, simply ghosted, emails bounced to silence, and the brand's chief marketing officer unfollowed her on every platform as if erasing digital fingerprints. The message was algorithmic: say no to power and watch your radius shrink, but the lonelier blows landed off camera. Her longtime choreographer, the one who'd punched up her in living colour swagger, stopped returning calls. Gossip later revealed he'd inked an NDA with a Combs-affiliated brand group. A music video director she'd mentored unfriended her in public, then privately begged forgiveness. Contractual obligations, he muttered, meaning hush money. That's when the phantom pages resumed. One afternoon, a single folded sheet lay on the piano bench in her home studio, blank until held to sunlight. Faint graphite ghosts spelled, "You don't have to speak to be loud." No signature, same courier font. She saved it in a manila folder labelled static and wrote in her journal, "They're not punishing me, they're dimming me." Each cancellation felt engineered to siphon wattage, to prove that silence can still scream if curated by the right hands. Lopez learned to measure retaliation in negative space, the missing gigs, the hushed mentions, the collaborators who vanished overnight. Hollywood hadn't blacklisted her openly, it had simply let gravity tug her off the A-list shelf, inch by inch, until she realised anonymity can be weaponised, an algorithm tuned to erase only the voices that once dared to say no. 17 years passed before the ghost finally revealed its timestamp. Lopez was half purging an old Yahoo inbox, folders packed with spam newsletters and forgotten boarding passes, when a subject line surfaced like a bone in silt: "You did the right thing." dated July 21st, 2005, 2:07 a.m., 4 days after she shuttered the movement. The sender field was a meaningless alphanumeric string. The body, Stark. You probably don't remember me. I worked backstage on the Combs sponsorship packet, not under him directly, but close enough to know the temperature. I wasn't supposed to see the roster, but I did. After you shut the camp down, they spun up a new project, different city, same goal. 3 of your girls still got invites. One said yes, one said no, one never replied. The one who said yes isn't dancing anymore. Keep locking doors. Lopez stared at the screen until the cursor froze, pulse roaring in her ears. No blinking, no tears, just a stillness heavier than grief, because this wasn't a warning. It was confirmation that vigilance had only rerouted the pipeline, not broken it. She forwarded the email to her lawyer, who traced its metadata to a defunct Comb-affiliated consultant, the same name later buried in Exhibit 22-D of the Cassie case. Lopez printed a hard copy, filed it behind the windshield list, and wrote on the margin with a red pen shaking in her hand. I didn't stop them, I just made them detour. The weight of that sentence felt like a second envelope sliding onto a bench, proof that silence might delay predators, but it rarely denies them. She spent the next 48 hours turning memory into evidence. No stylists, no publicist, just a kitchen island stacked with relics of a summer she'd tried to forget. First came the original Combs Enterprises proposal, its gold foil logo now dulled to the colour of tarnished brass. Next, the windshield inventory sheet, still smelling faintly of motor oil. Then the 2:07 a.m. email printed on cheap inkjet paper, metadata scribbled in her lawyer's hand. She dug deeper and found the letter she'd drafted that July. To whom it may concern, please find your intentions returned unread. Never sent, still folded like origami regret. Last, she pulled the journal page where she'd written, I just made them detour, tore it out and slid it on top. She labelled the manila envelope 2005 rejection packet in Sharpie, then drove it across town herself, no driver, no entourage, feeling the weight of each red light like cross-examination. In her attorney's conference room, she refused the offered latte, spread the artifacts across polished oak, and said, I'm done being quiet for free. The lawyer proposed waiting for a subpoena. She shook her head. Voluntary statement, sealed if necessary. I choose the timing. She sat at a side desk, hand-wrote 6 pages, no edits, no legalese, ending with, silence once protected me, now it protects them. I withdraw consent. She signed, dated, and watched as her lawyer slid the affidavit under a protective motion cover sheet, stamped pattern documentation, adjacent witness. Walking out, she felt the old industry gravity trying to pull her back into hush, but for the first time in 17 years, she realised the penalty of speaking might finally be cheaper than the cost of another envelope. The gavel cracks the room back to order, but the air has fundamentally changed, no longer stale with routine, now sparking like live wire. The clerk rises, throat mic squealing, and announces, Voluntary statement of Ms. Jennifer Lynn Lopez entered as Exhibit 54A4. The gallery ripples, reporters elbowing for sightlines, lawyers adjusting ties suddenly too tight. Bailiffs march the envelope to the bench. Its Sharpie scrawl, 2005 rejection packet, feels almost insolent against the polished mahogany. The judge, who has read dozens of grim affidavits in this case, pauses on page 3, brows knitting, then clears her throat so the hush deepens. Counsel for Combs leans forward, whispering frantic calculus. This isn't a disgruntled backup dancer or a faceless contractor. It's Jennifer Lopez, brand and box office rolled into one indelible signature. Plaintiff's table sits stone still, letting the gravity speak. On row 4, a junior reporter mouths, Pipeline, to her cameraman, and he just nods, already drafting the headline. The judge signals a sealed sidebar, but before white noise can mask the conversation, she declares for the record, Exhibit 54A4 demonstrates alleged pattern conduct relevant to recruitment and surveillance. 1 sentence, but it detonates like fireworks in a silo. Defense counsel requests an immediate recess, request denied. The packet is logged, time-stamped and wheeled into evidence custody. As Lopez's affidavit disappears behind chain link, you can almost feel the floor tilt. If she was approached to be a doorway, who else kept silent? Which doors are still open? The camera pans wide on the gallery, eyes darting, phones vibrating. because in a trial already ablaze, one superstar's 6 pages just poured accelerant on every sealed envelope still waiting in the wings.